Okay. Did you come here?
Up to you.
I'm so pleased to welcome the Minister for Foreign Affairs of France, Catherine Colonna, to Canberra, to Australia for her first visit. We appreciate her effort and the effort of her delegation in coming to Australia. Look, France is a power in the Pacific, it's a power in Europe, and it's a multilateral power. And this is a very important partnership to Australia. We have an enduring, contemporary and forward-looking partnership, and we are united in addressing shared challenges globally, but also in Europe, the Middle East and the Indo-Pacific. Catherine observed today at the National Press Club that France is a bridge builder. And in this and in so many other things, we are like-minded. We're both countries committed to building a stronger bilateral relationship that's based on our shared interests and our shared values of liberty, democracy, rule of law and the protection of human rights. Before we go to questions, I'll just make a couple of brief remarks. First, we obviously discussed today the Middle East, and I again indicate Australia's position. We unequivocally condemn the October 7 attacks. We continue to call for the immediate release of all hostages. Like France, we recognise Israel's right to defend itself, and we stress that the way it does so matters. Israel must respect international humanitarian law, and it must conduct its military operations lawfully. And we are very concerned about the scale of civilian death that we are all seeing, including children. I'm sure there may be questions on that, so I'll turn to the bilateral roadmap. When I was in Paris, we had discussions about, actually I think the first discussion was at the UN General Assembly, yes, about the bilateral roadmap and arising out of President Macron's and Prime Minister Albanese's meeting where they agreed to take this forward. We are launching the roadmap today. It outlines new levels of cooperation to achieve outcomes under the pillars of defence and security, resilience and climate action, education and culture, and responding to the needs of our partners in Pacific. It will obviously operate as a roadmap within which or beneath which there will be specific steps taken, one of which we took today, which was the signing of a bilateral agreement on Pacific development cooperation between our agencies, our portfolios, to more effectively meet the needs of our Pacific partners. This is a very important part of I think Catherine described it as a reset of the relationship. We've been really pleased to work with the Minister and her portfolio on making sure we can develop this roadmap. I thank her for coming to Australia, and I'll hand the podium to her.
Thank you, Senator. Happy to be here. It's my first time to Australia, so quite an event for me, and thank you for being here and your part, and thank you for your interest in Franco-Australian relations. It's an additional pleasure to be here at the invitation of a very good colleague and friend, Senator Wong. Last time, yes, we met in New York in the margins of the General Assembly, and I already had the pleasure to welcome you to Paris along with Richard Marles, so I had to come to Australia. And this Paris meeting, you know, the classic 2+2 Foreign Affairs Defence meeting, was a milestone between the visit of Prime Minister Albanese to Paris, visiting President Macron on July the 1st, 2022, and my visit today. Yes, indeed, I shared some thoughts earlier today at the National Press Club. Quite a honor for me, speaking after you, but not trying to meet the depth of your remarks, Penny. But it was an opportunity for me to make a few remarks on our strategy for the Indo-Pacific and on what we can do together in a relationship. So let me be very direct and short. The Indo-Pacific is a top priority for France. We are a nation of the Pacific. we are determined to beef up our cooperation with partners in the region, including, of course, with the number one partner for us in the region, i.e. Australia. And we need to do so in order to cope with global challenges and also to preserve the rules-based order that we cherish and can see sometimes shaken. So Australia's being will be a very strong partner for France in the region. But we also have an ambition in the Indian Ocean, including with India and Australia in this trilateral format, and we also talked about that today. And as far as Australia is concerned, we stand with our allies and partners, especially when they face unfriendly behaviors. For example, when they try to exercise or do exercise their right to navigate freely. So allow me to wish Senator a prompt recovery to the Australian Navy officer that had been injured in a recent and serious incident that should not have happened. So today is, I believe, an important moment between our two countries. We are adopting this ambitious roadmap for a profoundly renewed relationship and partnership between our two countries on the eve of the 80th anniversary of our diplomatic relations, which will come next year. So in order to get there, we've been working hard. It took us 18 months. Senator Wong and I and our teams did the job requested by President Macron and Prime Minister Albanese in July 2022, when your Prime Minister visited Paris, a few weeks, by the way, after taking office. And our task was to rebuild, reset, use whatever word is appropriate. I don't know which one you prefer.
Renew is good. I like that.
Let's renew then the kind of relationship we had before September 2021. But further than that, to really build a new one, and to build a new one around concrete project, and this is what our roadmap is about. Let me give just a few examples. I don't want to be too long, but to flag a few items on what we're doing, which is quite extensive and covering a lot of issues. We launched in Australia France Centre of Excellence for the Indo-Pacific with 3 programs. I want to name those programs. An Indo-Pacific Studies program focused on strategic research, a Pacific Shared Knowledge Initiative dedicated to fostering research in such areas like climate change, environment, and marine sciences, and a Center for Energy Transition, green transition, that will bring together both the academic world and companies to support research, training, and help build coalitions to deliver the best energy transition solutions for our countries and the region. And let me add that we do not have anything like this anywhere else in the world. So happy that we could be achieving first in this respect. We're also launching a partnership for climate and environmental resilience in the Pacific through the signing, and thank you, ladies, a few minutes ago, of a letter of intent between the Agence Française de Développement, AFD, and the DFAT. On defense, because yes, I have to speak about defense, it's part of our history, no, for the good part. We do have already a very good operational cooperation between our armed forces, and we will enhance this cooperation and this interoperability through a reciprocal access to military facilities. This is quite important, and through increased joint activities. And as we speak, our 2 ministers for defense are discussing this very moment in New Caledonia during the 6th edition of the South Pacific Defense Ministers meeting that we are proud to host in Noumea. In addition to defense and to the other points I mentioned, the roadmap encompasses a list of very practical cooperations on critical minerals, space, and the Antarctica. We see competition increasing, And last but not least, we have decided to be much more ambitious in the field of culture and heritage. Just a couple of examples, and I stop there. I came to Canberra with a digitalized version of the archives of an early French scientific explorations, talking about the years 1792, 1793. We were bold and adventurous then. It is bringing a unique testimony on Tasmania's First Nation before the rest of us came to this land. If I recall, 27,000 pages of scientific evidence, including, the geography, nature, the animals, and the plants there, and the people of that land. So I'm proud that Australia and France have submitted to the UNESCO very recently, just a few weeks ago, in November, to register these archives in the UNESCO Memory of the World Register. I'm sure it'll work. So it's only the beginning of a journey we want to undertake with you, with citizens of French Polynesia, Wallis and Futuna, New Caledonia, in the huge scope of shared memories. And the second example, what we do in culture and heritage, is tomorrow the launch of the France-Australia Cultural Exchange Foundation. One of the ideas we had in July 2022, led by an Australian board to support, in particular, a program of artistic residences for exchanges and projects from Australian and French artists and institutions. And the additional beauty in this program is that the program will be open to other Pacific nations as well. So, as you can see, we believe in the potential of the relationship between our two countries. It is huge in all sectors. We would like to cover it in the years to come. And keeping this in mind, I will consider opening a French Consulate General in Melbourne, if you accept it.
Of course. Of course. Yes, sir.
So let's keep in mind the good and ancient and positive relationship we had since the 18th century, and let's bring it forward. Thank you.
Before I take questions, can I just add a personal note of thanks? There's a lot of work required to not just get the roadmap together, but to renew the relationship. I think we all understand the history here, and I do want to just acknowledge Catherine's personal engagement on this. We have appreciated it. You have been a real friend of Australia's, and we are very appreciative of your role in ensuring we are here today and we are making this announcement. So thank you very much.
The same is true for you, Benny.
Mr. Packham.
Ministers, thank you. Just on the reciprocal access to each other's defence facilities, how will this operate in practice? Is this just a statement of intent, or will it be underpinned by some sort of RA, or a reciprocal access agreement or treaty of some form? How do you envisage it working?
I think you will see work on this between defence portfolios in the coming period. So I won't.
I don't think we need a treaty for that. We need some sort of, obviously, intergovernmental agreement, and we're working on it. It's a huge achievement. We're still working on something comparative with our nations of the Asia-Pacific.
We are keen, particularly in the Pacific, to work more closely together, and hence the Deputy Prime Minister's attendance at the conference that Catherine spoke about in New Caledonia.
We do already lots of joint exercises, and there's this tradition of working together. But having access to facilities will help capture.
Minister, can I ask about the stalled agreement, or the stalled negotiations of the European Union trade agreement? I appreciate that this is in the end a matter for the European Commission rather than for France, but nonetheless, as a major player in the European Union, I'd be interested to know whether it was discussed between you, Minister Wong, whether you pressed Minister Colonna on the question of agricultural market access for Australia, And Minister Colonna, is it your assessment that an agreement could still be finalised perhaps next year? And what would Australia need to give in order to make it a reality?
You know, I know you want to ask questions which invite us to negotiate in public, but I'm going to disappoint you. We won't be doing that, and obviously our trade ministers, well, the Australian Trade Minister and the EU will reprise this negotiation next year if possible. We've made our position clear, but that's not precluding the bilateral cooperation that we've been discussing today.
You must know, Benny, because you don't know yet, that I was asked the same question earlier at the National Press Club, and I gave an answer. I will deliver the same answer in short. We couldn't agree. It is the EU negotiating, not France, by the way, on a mandate given by the 27 countries. We cannot agree the offer, the proposal, but they technically call it an offer, could not be accepted by Australia, but we would like to keep the conversations going. Now, don't ask me for a calendar. I don't want to put the negotiators under pressure.
Just on the issue of the war in the Middle East, over the weekend, Emmanuel Macron said Israel's objective to completely destroy Hamas would result in a decade of war. He called on Israel to clarify its objective and reiterated calls for a ceasefire, and has previously said that Israel has no justification in the bombing of civilians. Foreign Minister Wong's called for steps towards an enduring ceasefire. Did you discuss the differences in language between Australia and France, and did you urge Australia to perhaps adjust its position? And Foreign Minister Wong, do you agree with Macron's assessment that Israel should clarify its objectives in regards to Hamas?
I don't think you'll see much difference in the assessment that we make on the situation in the Middle East. I could subscribe to every word that Senator Wong said at the beginning of this press conference, and you will see in the joint declaration that is about to be published, will be published, is published, that we absolutely agree on the language that, yes, terrorist attacks must be condemned, and we do condemn them, which means that Israel has the right to defend itself and the duty to do it within the framework of international law, and specifically international humanitarian law. Now, when it comes to the future of this conflict, absolutely in a repeated manner, we want to see a pause. That is the most important or immediate thing we can do. Work and continue to working with partners in the region to resume the pause, to make the pause more durable, more sustainable, so it can help aid to be delivered into the Gaza Strip to the population who badly needs that, so it can help the release, the liberation of every single hostage, and so it can create a dynamics that is much needed as well, that is to lead to a ceasefire and revitalize or restore a political horizon. Because again and again, we do believe that peace and security in the region can only come from a political solution in the form of a two-state solution, addressing the legitimate needs of Palestinians to have their state and the legitimate aspiration of Israel to live in peace with its neighbour.
Thanks, Catherine. Look, I think we are extremely closely aligned. I think we both have condemned the October 7 attacks and called for the release of hostages. We both have affirmed that in defending itself the way it defends itself matters. This is in relation to Israel. We have been clear about the importance of respecting international humanitarian law and the conduct of military operations in a lawful manner and the protection of civilians and civilian infrastructure. Both countries have expressed our concern about the scale of innocent civilian lives lost, we both support efforts towards further pauses in hostilities and the next steps towards a sustainable ceasefire. And finally, the point that Catherine made, which is the political solution. We both are strongly of the view that a political process towards a two-state solution is the only way to secure security and peace for Palestinians and Israelis.
May I just add, so the US Defence Secretary Lloyd Austin also said that Israel faces strategic defeat if it fails to heed the warnings of the international community in relation to civilian casualties. Could I invite you to reflect on those comments?
I thought they were, I think, well, both consistent with what I have said previously about these issues, but I thought it was notable that Secretary Austin, with his experience of urban warfare and his statements, if you drive civilians into the arms of the enemy, you replace a tactical victory with a strategic defeat. That's, I thought it was an important statement, notable statement.
Sorry, Ministers.
Last question, please.
I just wanted to ask on the PTNW. So, Minister Colonna, we had a report here in October that France... TPNW? Sorry. We had a report that...
Oh, what do you call it? TIAN. No? Huh? Yes.
Probably, yes, sorry.
We like to do things the other way around. It's called the difference between English and French.
Okay. I just wanted to ask about a report saying that a French official said they won't press Australia on not signing up to the agreement. I'm just wondering if you raised that and whether it's still your position that Australia shouldn't sign up to the agreement, and then what your response to that, Minister, is? Response to the report, sorry, about that Australia shouldn't sign up.
If you are talking about France's position on this issue, it is quite public and hopefully well known. This treaty goes against the existing architecture on non-proliferation and disarmament. In the current circumstances, in addition, it could undermine the stability of this architecture. And last but not least, it doesn't take into account the current existing threats. So we're quite opposed to this treaty, not specifically vis-à-vis Australia's looking at it or not looking at it, but as a matter of principle and for the sake of the security and the stability of the international order.
And the concerns France raises are consistent with some of the issues we have flagged in relation to the treaty. We understand the motivation of those seeking it. The point we have made is that we will examine it for, there are three things that we think need to be considered. One is verification and enforcement, the second is universality, and the third is the consistency with the architecture that Catherine describes, the Non-Proliferation Treaty, which remains the only international architecture which applies to both the nuclear states and the non-nuclear states. So thank you all very much.
Thank you. Give that. Thank you.